I'm Ryan Essmaker. I am a co-founder of The Great Discontent, which is a print and online magazine that features interviews with artists, makers, and risk takers. TGD was born in 2011, just coming up on our 6-year anniversary of doing the magazine, which started as an online magazine, founded by myself and my business partner, Tina, who handles all of the editorial. I handle all the creative stuff, the design, development, and the business side of things. A lot of people ask me about The Great Discontent, specifically the name. They're kind of like, it's a little negative, what's up with that? And how I describe it is that the Great Discontent is that feeling that pulls you forward in your work and your life. It's what makes you want to do better, it makes you want to work harder, create more. It's really that thing that makes it so you don't want to stop making. You can't stop making. So, and it's that drive that's always fueled the project, and it's kind of combined with the desire to talk about and communicate that with other like-minded artists. So with all of us being and learning how to be content in our discontent, which is like a really important thing for it, because I think it's super easy to kind of like be bummed out about your project sometimes, or like you finish it and you're really excited about it the next day or the next week, you kind of come back to it and you're like, oh man, like I could have done that so much better, or there's things that I wish I would have changed. But it's just kind of being okay with the fact that that desire, that's the thing that always makes us better and pushes us forward. So again, yeah, TGD started out as an online-only magazine. These are some of the first layouts that we did. As far as I know, it was one of the first long-form editorial sites that was both responsive and art-directed. So this was kind of like on the cusp of responsive design really starting to take off. So I had a lot of fun with it online, with the layouts. And one of the other interesting things that we did was that every week we put out a new article, and the homepage would change. So it was just whatever that newest article was. So in a lot of ways it was just kind of like simplifying the project, because I didn't want to design a homepage, and it wound up being like a really cool thing that people liked, and I really liked that the homepage felt different each week. So these are some more of the early layouts. Always very type-driven. We did this every single week for nearly 3 years. So every week we put out a really long-form interview with, it could be an artist, it could be a designer, musician, photographer, just anyone that we're inspired by. And it was kind of a crazy publishing schedule, and we produced a lot more content than I think people could even like read on a regular basis. But it really helped to push the project forward, and caught attention of a lot of people. So this is kind of the current state. So we do have a homepage now and a more robust visual archive. Still having a lot of fun with the layouts and with type. And featuring a very diverse group of creative professionals. So my background is in web design and development, and also print. And people would often ask us, when are you guys going to do a print version? And it's something that had always been drawn to and wanted to do, but logistically didn't really make a lot of sense. Like, print's expensive, and just a lot of things like having to think a lot more about publishing schedule, like a print publishing schedule as well as digital. But in 2014, decided to literally kind of take the leap. So I was working full-time at the time as a creative director for a studio in Manhattan, and decided to quit that and start a Kickstarter campaign with a pretty lofty goal of $100,000 to kind of create this first issue. And the Kickstarter started off really great. The first couple days, we had all this attention, and the money was coming in, and it was like, oh man, this is gonna be great. And then it just totally plateaued. And for like the course of the 30 days, it just kind of like stayed very, very flat. And it was a crazy roller coaster of emotions, because we had invested so much like emotional energy and just time into doing this Kickstarter, and we're really excited about doing print. And so it was just a very kind of like dark time during the period of the Kickstarter. But at the end of it, we just really like rallied, and our community rallied behind it, and we wound up kind of having this crazy spike at the end, and raising $105,000 to print the first issue. So after that crazy roller coaster of emotions, we literally hit the ground running, and we're on press like a few months later after designing the first issue, which was quite massive. It was 9 by 12 inches and 272 pages. It was much more of like a book-a-zine than it was a magazine, but we had a lot of fun. It was pretty crazy. Like that whole first year was, you think it would be about just kind of like designing and all this exciting stuff with the magazine, but it really wound up being so much more about the logistics of having a physical product and distribution and just learning that whole business side of publishing, which was extremely challenging. And by the end of the year, I was really, really wiped. But these are some spreads from recent issues. But since then, we have published 3 more issues. So we're on issue 4. And we've done a hardcover reprint of the first issue, which sold out pretty quickly. And we've had the honor of like interviewing some really amazing people like Tavi Gevinson, Sam Beam from Iron and Wine. We got tattoo artists like Slower Black, Jenna Boma, and designers like Hema Meyer, Grotesque, you may be familiar with as well. That's our hardcover reprint, limited edition. One thing I'm really excited about this summer is instead of doing just like our normal large 9 by 12, much more polished version, we're going to start and test out a more travel-friendly version. So we have like a travel edition with about 4 interviews in it, as opposed to like upwards of like 12 in our normal issues. Put out more of these per year with a lower price point, and so we're having some fun designing that. I think those will be out hopefully next month in July. One thing I do want to bring up is the fact that for the most part, this has been a side hustle for me. I've worked as a designer for the most part throughout the course of this project. There was about like a year and a half when we released the first issue where I was full-time on it. But I think it's an important thing to bring up because so many people in publishing, it winds up being like a very big passion project and a real labor of love. So I just want to point out that despite the fact that we're doing all this stuff, we've interviewed over 250 people. We put on like 16 live events. We've done film projects, 5 large format print pieces. It's still something that winds up being like very much a labor of love and a side hustle. So my day job, I work as a creative director at Fictive Kin, which is a product studio and design and engineering studio. So we do our own products, and we also do client services. And so yeah, I mean, making magazines is like one of these things that I think like looks really glamorous, and it's like super fun to do, to have magazines in your favorite shops, like your favorite magazine shop, to see it there, or to like have it in Barnes and Noble. Like that's all really exciting stuff. But it is definitely like, for me, it's been a huge labor of love and something that you do have to be like really, really passionate about. And I think that's something that is very consistent across the board for anyone that's an indie publisher. But it definitely makes it worth it when you see your magazine in your favorite bookshop, or it winds up in Urban Outfitters or something like that, or you get an email from a reader across the globe saying how much TGD has meant, and they're so glad that it is published online because they can read it on their phone on the way to work, and it's really inspired them to pursue a creative career. So like all that stuff makes all the hard work definitely worth it. So thank you.